and I hit rock bottom and I went homeless. And that was all because of myself. I was running a company unsuccessfully. I was very depressed, drinking a lot of alcohol. I was still on the outside looking like I had it all together. I know a lot of people listening to this can resonate with this, like in the grind world that we live in and the hustle culture that we have. I was waking up at 4:30. I was hitting the gym. I was doing all the things that you were supposed to be doing, but I wasn't listening to my body.
Guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories, where we share real life stories of persistence, perseverance, determination. We try to do a deep dive into the mindset of people who have pushed past obstacles, step out of their comfort zone, and are just badasses, as it were. And today, I'm just excited to welcome my friend Jax Scott to the show. Jax, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories.
I'm excited to be here, Devin. Thank you for having me. I think we've had this plan for like a couple of months now. When you reached out to me, I think it was before the holidays. So
Yeah,
I'm excited. I've been watching you. We've known each other for a couple of years. So
yeah.
I'm excited to be on the show. And you've been on my show before.
So
So
you know what? Thank you for coming on mine. It's all good. It's a tit for
absolutely.
tat here. But we always start just by asking our guests what it is that they do. How do they serve? How do they bring value to the lives of others? So please tell us, share with us that.
Yeah, so I think one of the big areas that I'm known for is podcasting, my YouTube, the content that I put out on my various different platforms, all for free for the community. And I think it's kind of instilled within me based on my military background, which one of our core values in the military is selfless service. And I think military alone is a selfless service act. Like you volunteer many times to go to war. And that's just always been instilled to help people become better. Now, there's a caveat to that, obviously, that some people think they want help and then they don't put in the work. So it's definitely, I've had to learn the hard way to know when to mentor and when not to mentor people. But mentoring, giving back to the community is just kind of enrooted into my being.
Mm. And when you say community, are you talking about the military community?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because for me, I have a few communities. I do have the military community. I have specifically the special operations community. That's an area that I also give back to. I'm a board member for a nonprofit called the Special Operations Association of America. And we actually have a bill out. It's called the Jax Act. And the bill is specifically designed to help these women, 310 of us that went through a specialized program. And as we've come back from war and we received injuries from combat, when we've gone to the VA to receive care and get our disability claims, we get discounted and marginalized and not seen as combat veterans. So the bill that we're working on would essentially allow us basically the DoD to retroactively go back, update our records, and basically put the power back in our hands. So when we walk into the VA, we're seen as combat veterans. We're seen as like equals in a way to our male counterparts that we were essentially walking side by side with in combat, doing the
Mhm.
exact same missions. So I've got that community, but then I've got the cybersecurity community that I love and adore. And that's where a lot of my content is surrounded around, is helping people either break in or helping people like level up in that community. And then I think the other third community is my local community. Like I'm big in politics, I'm big in volunteering and just making the world around you a better place, Devin. Like, and that's picking up trash when you're walking down the street. Like, how many times do people just walk by trash that's laying on the ground and just like picking it up? I don't do it all the time, but I try to like pick it up and put it in a trash can. Like, little things go really far.
Yeah, I agree. So, Jax, if someone from one of those communities wanted to reach out to you because they could use some mentorship or just some guidance in any way, shape, or form, or just to support your work, how would they find you?
Couple ways. I think the easiest is if they have LinkedIn, just Jax Scott. Pretty easy to find there. Otherwise, I have a website called I am Jax, JAX.me. You can literally just Google Jax Scott and find me, just like you. Just Google me, find me, reach out to me. I work in cybersecurity, but I have a pretty big social media platform. So it's relatively easy to to find me.
Yeah, easy to find. I'm happy to hear that. I know you're going to have an interesting story here, but we like to hear from our guests their keep on pushing stories. A time, Jax, when they had to step out of their comfort zone, push past an obstacle, you know, just be, I use the term badass because I know you are a badass, just being a badass to get past some of the uncontrollable events that life throws at us. So please do share one of yours.
Yeah, and when you like pose this question to me, a couple of things popped into my mind. And typically what we typically will see is you will see around this like talking about athletes like yourself, like you're an Olympic athlete. So people will talk about and have like these motivations around physical endurance or physical challenges. And I could certainly talk about that because my background, the special ops. I just climbed Kilimanjaro while having food poisoning, and I could talk about that. But I think what I decided to kind of share here is something that I think can resonate more with people that may not be that elite athlete. And that was actually in 2018 when I hit rock bottom. And I hit rock bottom and I went homeless. And that was all because of myself. I was running a company unsuccessfully. I was very depressed, drinking a lot of alcohol. I was still on the outside looking like I had it all together. I know a lot of people listening to this can resonate with this, like in the grind world that we live in and the hustle culture that we have. I was waking up at 4:30. I was hitting the gym. I was doing all the things that you were supposed to be doing, but I wasn't listening to my body. And that was a really big turning point for me. And I looked around and I started to notice that everything in my life, in relatively everything in my life, was super toxic because that's what I had created. Because the energy I was putting out was bringing in like toxic business partners, toxic relationships, and a toxic life. So my turning point and what I had to do was in the late 2018 into 19 is I had to take a radical accountability and I had to own where I was in my life. And the biggest challenge of that is straight up, Devin, you know this, change is hard. Change is extremely hard because it's uncomfortable. It's deciding that maybe what you believe in today might not be right. And that is really hard for people to accept, to say, wow, I might be wrong. So I have to be open-minded to look at a different viewpoint because what I'm doing today isn't going to get me to where I want to be. So the big challenges for me was trying to figure out the new version of myself that I wanted to be, like the version I am today, and figuring that out in 2018 when I didn't know who this person was today. And it was hard, it was painful. I had to get rid of all of the friends that I had. It was super lonely. But what I did, and I also didn't have mentors. That's how you and I met. I joined the mentor project because I didn't have mentors. I didn't have people I could look up to. Mentors were books. And so it was waking up every day, even when I sometimes that blanket felt like 100 pounds, and trusting the process, reading the books, buying the coaches, and overall just trusting that uncomfortable process and knowing that if I stay this course, I will effectively get to the finish line, sports analogy. And that's really what it is in all of life and all of the challenges that we face. If you trust the workout plan that you have, if you trust the program that you're on to get you to that future place, it's going to be super, super uncomfortable. But I think the biggest key is embracing the uncomfortability and knowing that that's where true growth happens versus trying to just remain in the comfort zone because you're never going to get out of it.
Yeah. Radical accountability. As you're talking, before you said that term, radical accountability, you spoke about just recognizing, Jax, that you created the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
How, and I think that's perhaps one of the biggest challenge that most people have as they're going through a tough time, recognizing that the energy that they're putting out there is bringing back those outcomes. What advice do you have for someone who's going through some tough times? Granted, some things happen to us that are out of our control, but how did you get to the point where you could take responsibility for your situation?
Well, I want to first recognize if anybody's in like, because I've been in an abusive relationship, I have, I've been raped, I've been beaten, I've had all of these bad, really, really, really bad and unfortunate things happen to me, and you don't deserve to go through that. So that's the first thing of just recognizing that what you're going through isn't your fault. So I want to be clear on that. It's not your fault. However, and there's a comment to that, what I had to realize is I kept putting myself in those situations. And now, to add clarity to that, what I mean is self-worth. I didn't know that I was worthy of love. So I would put myself in situations that people would mistreat me, that I would get beaten, that I would get abused, that I would have friends lock me out of their house. That's what I mean when I say the energy you put out is what's creating your environment. It doesn't mean that you deserve it. I didn't
Mhm.
deserve to be beaten or raped or abused. However, I didn't know what my self-worth was. So what I had to learn, and this was probably one of the hardest things for me to learn, and it actually didn't, it's surprising, but it actually didn't hit me until about 2020, 2021, was unconditional love. And so for me, and I know this is kind of like, people are like, oh, this is so woo woo, but it was really learning about understanding self-love. And once you can heal internally what is happening and what is causing that external environment, that's where the radical ownership and a radical accountability comes in, because you start owning who you are. You start loving yourself so you don't have codependency, so you don't bring narcissistic behaviors in, so you don't see failure as the world happening to you, but for you instead. So it's for anybody that's listening, it's like, okay, these things don't, like, I'm living in a crappy world, crappy life right now. And she's trying to say that I'm doing it to myself, but you are. Like, the tough truth is you are. It's not fair, and I'm not saying it's right, but once you can create self-love internally, you won't allow that to happen anymore. You won't allow people to speak to you poorly, because you'll be like, no, bro, you don't get to talk to me that way, because I'm amazing, I'm loved, I'm all these things. And that was the hardest thing for me, Devin, was understanding what unconditional love is, which is love without a condition, which is even if I don't show up 100%, or I get into a car wreck, or whatever happens, or I fail a test, I'm still loved. I'm still
Yeah.
loved here, and I'm still perfect, and I'm going to give myself ease and grace. And I think that changed a lot of things for me.
And to be clear, when you're talking about unconditional love, you're talking about having unconditional love for yourself, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really important point to stress because, when we go through tough times, especially if you're ambitious and you want to do things, we tend to beat ourselves up. And I love the word you use, grace. We are so quick to give others grace, to treat them kindly, and not ourselves. We tend to beat ourselves up. And that's like, if all the people in the world who could beat you up, the worst person to do it is you to yourself.
Yeah. And as an athlete, to pivot on you on this question, like, because this was trained to us in the special forces, was mindset work, was to envision us going into battle or taking a PT test. We actually had a course on sitting, meditating, and envisioning success. You don't envision beating yourself up if you're going to be a successful athlete, right? Like, you're going to have positive self-talk. I can't imagine you, Devin, being like, man, I suck. I am the worst at this. Like, it's like, that's not going to work and make you successful.
Maybe in a fit of anger, but
Right. Like, because we're so hard on ourselves.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a fine line of, to balance a tightrope where um, you have to give yourself grace while at the same time pushing yourself hard.
Correct.
And,
Yep.
and I think, call it tough love. I think we have to, each of us have to figure out where that balance is for ourselves, right? Um, not settling for mediocrity, but at the
Yep.
same time recognizing that you're human, and if we all know when we have given our best,
Hmm.
and if in this moment you gave up your absolute best and it fell short of the mark, well, it fell short of the mark. And as you said, failures aren't happening to you; they're happening for you. So it's now for us to, as you're talking about. Um, how you navigated these tough times. I thought, yeah, reframing. It's
Hmm.
looking at the situation and flipping it, uh, for that situation to work for you.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And that takes a lot of practice, though. Like, I remember when I first started my journey and people are like, oh, it's just mindset shift. Well, if it was the word just gets me, because if it was just a mindset set shift, we'd have a lot more people that weren't depressed. We'd have a lot more people living in a space of happiness and joy. And it is very hard. I want to, like, people listening, it is hard. But if you do it and you practice, just like an athlete, you have to practice. You have to put the work in. And I have like manifestation, they're not motivational quotes, but they're reminders, like even above me and in front of me, to remind me that I'm loved. Like those things do help, because it's the mind, it's the subconscious mind. It's
Yeah.
rewiring your subconscious mind.
So, it seems like a precipitous fall, from volunteering for war, for being a special operator. Um, and, there's so few people on the planet who have gone through those experiences and come out, at least, and come out of it. And you go from that being, a total badass to being homeless.
Mm.
Um, help us. I know you talk about radical accountability, just kind of taking, responsibility. Most people will not have those kinds of experiences, like going to war and being a special operator, but find themselves like in no man's land
Mhm.
anyway. What's that first step, Jax, to find your way home?
Taking the step. I mean, and that step could be for anybody. It's just taking a step. That step could be sitting down with a book, a journal, and writing you like in your life right now. It really could be as simple as like getting clarity on why you're so freaking miserable. A step could be finally reaching out to that therapist or that counselor. And that's what I tried to do. And it was unsuccessful. So I feel people that are trying to get a good therapist or counselor, reaching out to a trusted confidant or a friend that you truly trust, and just telling them what's going on. I think the biggest thing is finding a way to get out of here, because we always keep it inside of our head. The moment we write it down, the moment we talk about it, the moment we start to take action, that's when real change happens. It's because we don't take action, or we just want to complain about it. Complain, but take actionary steps to move forward.
Hmm. You spoke about the fact that the journey is lonely, and I know that only too well. How do you navigate that loneliness?
Mm. For me, trusting that you're not always going to be alone, that part of that lonely journey is growth, and it sucks. Like there's nothing great about it. When I was climbing Kilimanjaro and my guide did not speak English and I had food poisoning and I was really sick, it was super quiet. I was by myself. It was super quiet. And I mean, I was in my head. I was definitely like, there was one point I just was counting to 120, and then I would repeat it and I would count by my footsteps. It's just getting through, doing things that are going to help you get through that, but know that there is definitely an end in sight, and just embracing the discomfort. I think in our society, we see discomfort as a bad thing. So we try to get out of it as quickly as possible. But what I would try to encourage you to do, and it sucks, and I've been there, and when you're in the discomfort, you feel like it, like I remember clearly on Kilimanjaro, I was like, this sucks. This is never going to end. Why am I here? But I was like, no, 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 it's going to end. It just feels like a million years right now. And it's okay, but it will end. But embrace it and just accept where you're at and try to feel all the feels, because that will allow you to move through it faster. I truly believe you will be able to move through it faster because you'll be able to process where you're at, and the loneliness will then become solitude. Loneliness goes away, and then you start embracing and realizing, oh, I'm just in a place of solitude and growth.
Wow, I love that. Embracing the suck, because you have to go through it. It's not the end of the journey. It's part of the journey, but the end will come.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not really loneliness, it's solitude. I absolutely love that. But then just accepting the situation, accepting where you are, which is different from resignation.
Yes.
Accepting is simply acknowledging that this is what it is right now, right? Not that you don't have the power to get past it. Because when you take that radical accountability, as you described, yeah, that starts putting you on the journey to recovery to
Hmm.
get. Wow, Jax, what an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing with us. That your story absolutely epitomizes the keep on pushing philosophy. And I know a lot of people are going to benefit from it. So thanks again for coming on here and spending time with us.
Oh my God, it was my honor. Seriously. You're like, I love you, Devin. So thank you again for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you. And guys, if you enjoyed this, if you found it valuable, don't forget to hit a like, but most importantly, share it. Share it with someone who you think can absolutely benefit from it. Um, and I look forward to spending some more time with all of you. Until then, keep on pushing. Oh, wow.
It was awesome.
No, you are awesome, girl.